Ferrari fans are absolutely delighted here at Imola, around about 120,000 of them, because Michael Schumacher has won the race from Mika Häkkinen and David Coulthard, McLaren second and third. Tony Jardine, a lot of excitement. Plenty of it in the pits, though.
I know you're going to say it wasn't out on the track.
I thought you might be ready for that.
Yeah. I mean, as ever, you've got this incredible excitement surrounding the strategy. What are they going to do? Who's doing what? Incredible technical achievement. We actually had overtaking in the pit lane. Some of it quite dangerous, as we've seen, but the incredible tactics of Ferrari and Ross Brawn, again, leaving McLaren flummoxed. But there's no doubt for me, McLaren the fastest car in this race. They've proved it. They've now gone to the end, so Schumacher can quit all the goading about, well, hang on, we haven't seen how competitive they are. They were out there doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I know this is awkward, Tony, but I mean, out there they say, well, McLaren have got the fastest car. They had no apparent problems today. Häkkinen seemed to be away and in control, and yet the fellow spraying the champagne's Michael Schumacher. How's that happened?
Well, he's simply the best. I mean, when he's required to, we've seen it over the years, when he's required to put the hammer down, when he's required to think about the tactics, which is very, very carefully worked out between himself and Ross Brawn, where they've got spotters looking for the gaps in the traffic, people looking at the weather, every little thing, they've got the tactics sewn up in every quarter. And of course, McLaren are always on the back foot thinking, what are they doing? They're watching Ferrari. They should be thinking about their own creative strategy. And it's about flexibility as well.
I was going to say, that seems to be the word. They just seem to be able to adjust their tactics when it matters, when the pressure is on, during a Grand Prix.
Yeah, and I think that is the ability to be able to swap onto something, to have a slightly longer stop, you know, a later stop, a splash and a dash. And of course that's when McLaren are looking over the shoulder thinking, God, what are they doing now? Can we match this? And we've seen McLaren before go on one-stop strategies, which they did in Brazil with Häkkinen. It remains to be seen if the two against the one in Brazil, whether they'd have come together in the last part of the race, because Häkkinen, of course, went out with failing oil pressure in the Mercedes. And that's something else we should discuss maybe later on. I think, you know, Mercedes have got that sorted.
OK, let's just go back to the start of the 62-lap race, and Häkkinen was away and gone, and a little bit of boxing and coxing behind him, though.
Yeah, I mean, we'll sort of see payback from Coulthard a little bit later on, but this...
Villeneuve we've bring there.
Yeah, Villeneuve, a sensational start, but we've got to see that this was a huge tactical manoeuvre by Michael Schumacher, because he knew the start was going wrong. Massive wheel spin, the same as he had in Australia, and he launches straight across and effectively blocked out so many people, caused that traffic jam, and allowed them to come through, particularly Villeneuve, who made such a great start. And David Coulthard himself had made a great start as well, and he got blocked out. Now look at this, there it is. You see, Schumacher just holds them all up. Somehow Barrichello squeezes through as well, but that was all caused by Michael Schumacher. No taking away though, Ralf Schumacher made a great start there, absolutely superb start. He was coming down the grass. And if you saw Villeneuve on his birthday, so that clearly makes a difference, 29th birthday, down, darted off to the right. He's made some superb starts, and he had a very, very difficult practice. He's driving with a sore back after qualifying, and I think Honda gave him a great engine today.
Just looking at that again, I mean, it occurs to me, Rubens Barrichello could possibly have got ahead of Michael Schumacher there.
Well,
would I be wrong in suggesting that he might have seen a bit of red on his left and thought, whoops, I better let that one through?
Well, I mean, he is definitely playing the old number two and riding the shotgun and a tactical block there. There's no question about that. And in team tactics in Formula One, you can do that, and it's quite legitimate. But you're right, from the on-car there, you can see them just a nice sort of red block.
Let's have a little word about Jenson Button, who's made such a promising start to his Formula One career. It seems to me that throughout this weekend he never really came to grips with this very tricky Imola circuit, especially those curbs.
What we're talking about is going from the wide open spaces of Australia, which is flat and very, very fast. Now, when we first came back to this, we both sort of took a bit of a step, oh no, he's lost it, he's gone off. Perhaps he'd gone off with Genet there, but he hadn't. The engine had just let go suddenly, and obviously the Minardi behind him had spun out on the oil, and he'd gone off. But that just shows the measure of the guy. He hasn't made any big mistakes apart from that practice crash in Australia. And this will do him good, because he's still got this huge learning curve to go through. And he's going to go through some real troughs and some real highs. That graph is going to be very, very spiky in his Grand Prix career. So I would have thought if he'd had another good result in another way, that could have made him a little bit cockier, although I don't think he's the cocky sort.
Absolutely.
It's going to keep him honest.
Is it unfair to blame him because of an engine failure here during the race anyway? Jaguar have had a few problems on their arrival in Formula One. We thought this could be a better day for Eddie Irvine in particular. Had problems early on, didn't he?
And Irvine had done a great job in qualifying to get the car up where it was, and he'd been on but here he's slipping back from the 7th place. Some sort of mechanical problem or electrical problem, and Ralf Schumacher went through because he went into the pits, and Gary Anderson, who used to be the designer of the Jordan and then went to Stewart before it became a Jaguar, has told Louise that he switched something off. Well, that is something electronic, clearly, that was misfiring, and whatever gizmo that may have been, legal or not,
supposed to be off by Silverstone.
Who knows?
No, I didn't mean that. But I mean, at
course.
Silverstone, sorry Tony, there will be huge support for Jaguar, for the British racing green of Jaguar at Silverstone next time out. And we shouldn't expect too much, though, perhaps.
No, and that's what Jackie Stewart said about everything. You know, they are expecting a lot of us very early on in Jaguar's career, if you like. And he said perhaps we changed over to Jaguar a year too early. And those things, he said, he's not here today, incidentally. He's up at a Formula 3 race at Croft, supporting the Paul Stewart racing team up there. So it's interesting that he's not here. I'd expect him to be here. But, you know, it's like Le Mans, recreated. If you'd been over there and seen the Sea of Green and the Union Jacks, it's a great, great British feeling. And we're calling it emotional engineering, but it'd be lovely to see over the Easter weekend everyone turning out to the Jaguar, Herbert and Irvine. Why not?
OK, let's have a look at some of that pit lane excitement, shall we, first of all. First of all, Häkkinen and Michael Schumacher coming in virtually simultaneously.
Well, this is Michael Naglayan, who's the chief mechanic of McLaren, then Nigel Stepney, who's the chief mechanic of Ferrari, an Englishman, the chief mechanic of Ferrari. This is where the heated battle comes on. And this is where we've talked before about the mechanics being as nervous as the drivers. Some of them actually being physically sick behind the garage because the competition that's coming out. In this particular case, obviously Häkkinen came in ahead. He did something like an 8-second stop there, didn't take on quite as much fuel. 9.9 seconds there for Michael Schumacher. He took on that extra bit of fuel, so he was going to stay out later, and that was where part of the tactics came into play. But that's only part of it. The drivers got to be able to put it together, and who better than Michael Schumacher to do that?
You have to be part of those pit crews. Just give us some insight into the tension when you await a Schumacher or a Häkkinen.
Well, I mean, in my case, I was waiting for the great Niki Lauda, and I can give you one instance at Monte Carlo where I was in charge of the whole jacking system for the car, whereas a hydraulic jack, we plugged it in and the car came up on automatic jacks. And as we've seen other guys do before, the guy would coming in from second place, be challenging for the lead, and one of the guys had had a problem on the back. I thought he'd come off with a wheel gun, but it cross-threaded. I let the car come down. And as I looked, I could feel Lauda's eyes burning through his helmet into my skull. I'm thinking, oh my God, I've had it afterwards. So I had to bring the car back up. We lost something like about 10 seconds. He got so mad that he went out and then set the fastest race lap and got back into second place. And afterwards he came up.
But he hadn't forgotten about it, though,
he still brings it up, you know.
I mean, one or two hairy moments in the pits today that I'm sure we'll hear a lot more about. Trulli and Irvine involved in this next incident, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that when it is particularly dangerous, but they're in 6th and 7th position when they came in, truly in 6th position there. And, you know, Irvine in the other pit there in the Jaguar pit. Now, it seems to take a little long time. I don't know whether it was coming down off the jet, but look at that, so close. Truly saw that he was behind. He just dives for the gap there. Irvine just coming across, and it was absolute gnats. And Coulthard and Barrichello coming in together. Now this is really the one, because Coulthard is 4th at this point. Now look, Ferrari have finished for big sideways there for Rubens Barrichello, and straight across his bow comes David Coulthard. He's now doing the block. Inadvertently, I'm sure. He can't see through his mirrors from that point. He's just dropping the clutch, going for it and getting out. and he's burning the rubber in front of Barrichello. Now, I don't think we'll hear the end of this one. I am sure the litigious Jean Todt, who's the general manager, sporting director of Ferrari, will be seeing if he can do anything at all with the rule book about dangerous driving there, because clearly his driver had finished first, he's coming out, but out comes David Coulthard straight across his bows. Well, you could argue, of course, and David would argue, well, hang on, what happened to me at the start?
Absolutely.
Michael Schumacher just blazed right across us and took a diagonal trip at the start line, right across the bows of the rest of the field. Is that dangerous? So let's see what happens.
You can't apportion blame in that incident, Tony, but are you deep down satisfied that pit lane safety is 100% with those sort of incidents?
Yeah, I am pretty well, because you've got a step wall to the actual pit lane on the outside. Obviously, if the car was to spear onto the inside, it could be a different story. It is still far more dangerous in terms of refueling, and as we discussed in Australia, decoupling the hose under flow and the risk of spillage of fuel. That is more dangerous.
We haven't had yet. This race was won and lost in that area, and an absolutely crucial pit stop for Michael Schumacher. What was it? Just over 6 seconds, wasn't it? And after that, he was home free.
Yeah, and this is where we saw about it. He comes in, and look at this, absolutely superb. Don't forget, one of the guys was run over this morning that you talked about when they were practicing these pit stops, and so much practice goes in. Nigel Stepney and his boys, out he goes. He needs a smaller amount of fuel, 6.2. He's got the hammer down. He's been putting in incredible laps. Where is Mika Häkkinen? There he is, just coming down the pit straight. McLaren hearts would have sunk there. Mika Häkkinen will take that very, very badly, because the guy's driven brilliantly. Häkkinen has been superb. Don't take it away from him, because the guy crashed here last year, and he's conquered the jinx of this place. He's never gone well here, particularly well, and he's been destroyed by Ferrari and Michael Schumacher and the tactics.
Well, he's never won here, Mika Häkkinen, and the McLaren body language after the race really told everything. But you can hear what Mika Häkkinen, David Coulthard and Michael Schumacher think about the San Marino Grand Prix when you rejoin us in a few minutes' time.
Michael, congratulations, your third win in 3 races. A great result, but not the best of starts. Perhaps you can talk us through those first few yards.
Yeah, it was exciting. Won't feel anything strange.
This is how it looks as we go to Silverstone. 30 out of 30 then for Schumacher. Barrichello next on 9. Fisichella 8. Häkkinen and Schumacher 6 apiece. And Jacques Villeneuve, the birthday boy, on 5. And the constructors, well, Ferrari, a massive 29 points clear of McLaren. OK, let's have a word with Rubens Barrichello about that controversial incident in the pit lane. Here he is with Louise.
About that pit stop, that was a very, very close in the pit lane, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was very close. I mean, if the pit stop was, if the garage was a little bit wider, you know, if the exit was a little bit wider, I could have made it. But I mean, he just exited right in front of me. I could have touched him. So really, unfortunately.
But what's your view on that? It's a potentially very dangerous situation. Do you think something should be done about it?
Well, I should go back and see on TV, but sure, we should do something. It was, if I wanted, I could have crashed it. So I was right in the middle of his car, but there was nothing to be done.
Nothing to be done. Tony, thank you very much indeed for your comments throughout the afternoon. It's now time for the result of the competition we ran a couple of weeks ago at the Brazilian Grand Prix in Sao Paulo. We had a great response to this competition. Last year's European Grand Prix was a fantastic day for the stewards. Johnny Herbert followed home by Rubens Barrichello. And Barrichello's autographed helmet is the big prize, plus 5 Sony PlayStation 4 new runners-up. Well, Rubens now drives for Ferrari, of course, but the question, just to remind you, was which team did he start his career? Was it A, Jordan, B, Lola, or C, Stewart? Which team did he start his F1 career? And the answer was A, Jordan. Molly Temple from Leicester is the big winner. And receiving the video consoles, Patrick Norton, Jeremy Bone, Judith Bell, Jason Radford and June Beck. Congratulations to you all. Barrichello, helmets in the post, honest. Highlights later tonight, just before midnight. That highlight show, by the way, repeated tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock over on ITV2. Next stop, Easter weekend, as we've been telling you a lot earlier than usual, the British Grand Prix at Silverstone.
Go at Silverstone! Out of control.
Great service throughout the weekend, a Good Friday special at 4:15 to get us all in the mood. Qualifying live on the Saturday from 12:30. Nigel Mansell will join us for that session. Tony presenting a British Grand Prix theme night on ITV2. 8 o'clock on the Saturday night, we will be going behind the scenes with the new Jaguar team for that. And on Grand Prix Sunday, we go on air at midday, and the British Grand Prix itself will start at 1 o'clock. So Michael Schumacher goes there with an unblemished record, thanks to some fantastic work from the Ferrari pit crew. They had their problems in warm-up, but when it mattered, they were spot on. Bye-bye from us all at Imola. Bye-bye.
If you would like to know more about Formula One, the website address sponsored by livesport365.com is www.itv-